The 7-year Tillandsia time lapse. A gardener's journey from tiny rosette to thriving legacy. The tiny origins. A primer on air plants and my first acquaintance. 1.1. The scientific foundation. An expert's introduction to the genus Tillandsia. The world of air plants is a captivating domain of horticultural paradox, where survival depends not on soil, but on the delicate interplay of air, light, and water. These remarkable organisms belong to the genus Tillandsia, a diverse group of over 650 species of evergreen, perennial flowering plants. They are members of the family Bromeliaceae, which also includes the pineapple, and are native to the vast neotropics, spanning from the southeastern United States and Mexico all the way to central Argentina. The generic name, Tillandsia, was bestowed by the father of modern taxonomy, Carl Linnaeus, in 1738, as a tribute to the Swedish botanist Elias Tillands. The most defining characteristic of these plants is their epiphytic nature, a term derived from Greek that literally translates to upon a plant. This means they grow on other plants, such as tree branches, as well as on non-living structures like bare rocks, telephone wires, or fences. Their fine, silvery aerial roots serve one purpose: to anchor the plant to a host, providing structural support. A common misconception is that these roots absorb nutrients from their host. But this is a critical distinction that separates epiphytes from parasites. Unlike parasitic plants like mistletoe, Tillandsia draw no nourishment from their host and cause them no harm. Their presence on a weakened or dying tree is not a cause of the tree's decline, but rather a preference for the increased sunlight that becomes available as the host loses its leaves. The true secret to a Tillandsia's survival lies in two highly specialized biological adaptations. First, their leaves are covered with tiny, scale-like cells known as trichomes. These specialized structures act like highly efficient sponges, rapidly absorbing the minimal amounts of water and dissolved minerals that collect on the leaves from rain, dew, or even atmospheric dust. Second, they utilize a unique metabolic process called crassulation acid metabolism, or CAM photosynthesis. Unlike most plants that open their stomata, the pores on their leaves, during the day to absorb carbon dioxide, Tillandsia do the opposite. They close their stomata during the heat of the day to prevent water loss and open them at night to breathe, absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. This remarkable water-saving mechanism is a necessary adaptation for their rootless, arboreal lifestyle and is a key factor in understanding their care requirements. 1.2. My story. The first month with Tillandsia ionantha. My journey into the world of air plants began not as a grand project, but as a simple act of curiosity. I had stumbled upon an article about the Tillandsia ionantha, and I was instantly captivated by a plant that seemed to defy all the rules of gardening I had ever known. The idea of a plant that didn't need soil, that could simply exist in a beautiful, floating state of grace, was too intriguing to resist. My first Tillandsia ionantha arrived as a small, unassuming rosette of silvery green leaves, just a few centimeters high. Its compact shape and delicate appearance seemed to belie its remarkable biology. My first task was to find it a home. I settled on a decorative, open-air bowl, choosing a container that would provide a stable display without trapping moisture. The very first watering was a nervous affair. I had read that a 20 to 30-minute weekly soak was the recommended method. And after filling a bowl with water, I gently submerged my new plant, watching the air bubbles escape from its leaves. After the allotted time, I removed it and shook it gently. The change was immediate and astonishing. The leaves, which had been a dull, silvery gray, took on a plump, vibrant green hue. It was a visible and profound sign that I was doing something right. A tangible reward for my initial efforts. 2. The nurturing path. Cultivation, care, and learning the rhythms of life. 2.1. The art of hydration. The 3-part watering regimen. Proper hydration is the single most critical factor in the cultivation of Tillandsia. The optimal approach involves a combination of soaking and misting, but the process is more nuanced than it appears. A weekly soak is the most effective way to rehydrate the plant. Most species benefit from a thorough submersion in a bowl of water for 20 to 30 minutes, with some enthusiasts recommending a soak of up to an hour or more every 7 to 10 days, depending on the dryness of the environment. Misting, on the other hand, should be considered a supplemental method. While it can temporarily raise humidity, especially in arid climates, it is generally insufficient as a sole means of watering and should only be used to provide a quick boost between soaks. The type of water used is also a significant consideration. While many gardeners use regular tap water, it is best to let it sit for a day to allow chlorine to dissipate. Distilled water is not recommended as it lacks the necessary minerals and micronutrients that the plants absorb. Conversely, softened water should also be avoided due to its high salt content, which can be detrimental to the plant's health. For those seeking the best hydration sources, natural options like rainwater or water from a fish tank are highly effective, as they contain beneficial nutrients that help the plant thrive. A crucial point, and one that is often misunderstood, is that the risk of overwatering is not about the volume of water, but about the plant's inability to dry quickly afterward. As a Tillandsia absorbs water through its leaves and base, any moisture that remains trapped in the plant's central core, known as the crown, creates a stagnant, anaerobic environment. This becomes a breeding ground for bacteria and fungi, leading to a condition called crown rot, which is almost always fatal. The leaves at the base will turn soft, mushy, and dark brown or black. To prevent this, it is essential to gently shake off any excess water after a soak and then place the plant upside down for at least 1 to 3 hours, or until it is completely dry. This simple act of ensuring proper and rapid drying is the single most important step in preventing plant rot. 2.2. Optimizing the environment, light, temperature, and airflow. Beyond water, a Tillandsia needs a carefully balanced environment of light, temperature, and air circulation. The ideal lighting condition is bright, indirect light, similar to what they would receive in their natural habitat under the canopy of a tree. While they can tolerate a few hours of direct morning or evening sunlight, prolonged exposure to harsh, unfiltered midday sun can easily scorch their delicate leaves and cause browning. For indoor cultivation, a south, east, or west-facing window with some form of light filtration is ideal. Full-spectrum fluorescent grow lights are also an excellent option, with a recommended daily duration of around 12 hours. The optimal temperature range for most species is between 50 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 to 32 degrees Celsius, and they are highly susceptible to frost. However, the most underrated element of their care is air circulation. In their native habitats, air plants are constantly exposed to natural breezes that facilitate the drying process after rainfall. In a stagnant indoor environment, especially in an enclosed terrarium or a container with limited airflow, the plant's ability to dry is severely compromised. This leads to prolonged wetness and, consequently, an increased risk of rot. Therefore, providing a gentle breeze, either through an open window or a small fan, is not merely a suggestion but a fundamental requirement for maintaining a healthy plant. 2.3. My story. 3 months in and a developing routine. 3 months into my journey, my weekly care routine had become a familiar, almost meditative ritual. I had learned to read the non-verbal cues of my Tillandsia with an almost intuitive understanding. When its leaves began to curl inward or its vibrant green faded to a dusty grey, I knew it was thirsty. It was a tangible signal for hydration, a silent communication between plant and caregiver. Not every moment was a success. However, one week, in a rush, I had forgotten to properly dry the plant's base after a soak. The next morning, a subtle but alarming change was visible. The base of the plant felt slightly soft and mushy, a sign of impending rot. Panic set in. I immediately placed it upside down in front of a small fan for a full day, and with a sense of immense relief, the plant recovered. This small setback reinforced the single most important lesson of Tillandsia care. The soak is only half the battle. The drying process is what truly ensures its longevity. 3. The grand finale: blooming, progeny, and the cycle of life. 3.1. The life cycle unveiled, a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. The life of a Tillandsia is a journey that culminates in a single magnificent event, the bloom. Most species are monocarpic, meaning they will flower only once in their lifetime. A grand finale before the parent plant slowly wanes. However, this event is not a sudden occurrence. It is often preceded by a phenomenon known as blushing, where the plant's outer leaves transform into a brilliant palette of red, pink, or purple. This stunning color change serves as a signal to pollinators that the plant is approaching its reproductive prime. Following this display, a towering structure called an inflorescence or bloom spike emerges from the center of the rosette. The duration and appearance of this bloom vary dramatically by species. While some blooms, such as those from the Tillandsia stricta, may only last for a few days, others, like the inflorescence of the majestic T. xerographica, can persist for many months, producing multiple vibrant flowers. A plant's failure to bloom can often be attributed to a lack of maturity or insufficient light and nutrients, both of which are critical for the energy-intensive process of flowering. A common point of comparison is between air plants and orchids, which are also often grown without soil. While both belong to different plant families, Tillandsia to Bromeliaceae and orchids to Orchidaceae, they share similar epiphytic growth habits and a preference for bright, indirect light, warm temperatures, and high humidity. However, their primary mechanisms for water absorption are fundamentally different. While many epiphytic orchids possess thick aerial roots that absorb moisture from the air, Tillandsia rely almost exclusively on their leaves and trichomes for hydration. This crucial distinction means that while they can be beautiful companions in a single display, their specific watering routines, regular weekly soaking for air plants and more frequent watering of a porous media for orchids, must be respected to ensure both plants thrive. 3.2. Propagating a legacy, welcoming the next generation. The single bloom is not the end of the story, but rather a transition to the next generation. As the mother plant begins to fade, it directs its remaining energy toward a new purpose: the creation of pups, or offshoots, that emerge from its base. This is the plant's natural method of propagation, and a single mother plant can produce one or multiple pups. The timeline for the development varies significantly. In some cases, pups may appear shortly after blooming, but in others, especially in cooler climates, they can take years to reach a substantial size. Once the pups reach approximately 1/3 the size of the mother plant, they are mature enough to be separated and cultivated on their own. The process is simple yet requires care. Using a sharp, sterilized knife or a pair of garden shears, the pup is carefully cut away from the mother plant at its base. After the separation, it is important to allow the cut on both plants to harden off for a few days before their first watering. This act of division and repotting allows the gardener to continue the plant's legacy for generations to come. 3.3. My story. 1 year and a blushing surprise. My journey with my first Tillandsia ionantha reached its dramatic climax after just over a year. The day I noticed a slight shift in the color of its central leaves, I was overcome with a profound sense of anticipation. The leaves, which had been a consistent green, began to take on a subtle reddish hue. Over the next few weeks, the blush deepened, until the entire center of the rosette was a brilliant, fiery red. It was a breathtaking sight, a silent prelude to the main event. Then, slowly, from the heart of the red blush, a bloom spike emerged. It was a stalk of vibrant purple that contrasted magnificently with the crimson foliage. For a week, I watched in quiet awe as the flowers fully unfurled. The moment they faded, a wave of bittersweet emotion washed over me, as I knew the mother plant's life was drawing to a close. But as I examined the plant's base, a new emotion, hope, took its place. There, barely visible, was a tiny, green node. My Tillandsia had gifted me with a pup, a new beginning to a journey that had just reached its first grand milestone. IV. The collector's canvas, varieties, displays, and a growing passion. 4.1. The world of air plant art, creative and safe display methods. The unique, soil-free nature of Tillandsia allows for an incredible range of creative display options, transforming a single plant into a living work of art. These arrangements are often called aeriums, to distinguish them from terrariums, as they do not contain soil. The simplest displays include placing plants in ceramic holders, seashells, or decorative glassware. More elaborate creations can involve mounting them on materials like driftwood, cork bark, or even making hanging mobiles and chandeliers. A common aesthetic choice is to display air plants alongside succulents. While visually appealing, this requires an understanding of their fundamentally different care needs. Succulents store water in their fleshy leaves and require well-draining soil and a dry period between thorough waterings to prevent rot. Tillandsia, by contrast, require a soak and must dry completely within a few hours to survive. The two can coexist, but any shared display must allow for the easy removal of the air plant for its weekly hydration session, ensuring the succulent's soil remains dry as needed. For more permanent displays, such as mounting plants on wood, the choice of materials is critical. Safe, plant-friendly adhesives like E600 or low-temperature hot glue can be used to secure the plant's base to a waterproof surface, ensuring a flexible and permanent bond. For displays that cannot be soaked, such as those made from delicate or non-waterproof materials, the plants can be mounted using non-corrosive metal wire, such as nickel, steel, or aluminum. It is essential to avoid copper wire, as it can be toxic to the plant's base over time. Proper air circulation remains a vital consideration for all displays, especially in enclosed glass globes or aeriums, as a lack of airflow can quickly lead to rot. 4.2. Notable species, from the common to the sites protected. The diversity within the genus Tillandsia is vast, with species ranging from the common and compact T. ionantha to the rare and magnificent T. xerographica. The latter is often referred to as the queen of air plants, for its wide, elegant, silvery leaves that form a sculptural rosette. Its slow growth and grand size, reaching up to 24 inches in diameter, make it a highly sought-after specimen. The story of the Tillandsia xerographica is more than just one of beauty. It is a powerful example of conservation and sustainability. Due to its immense popularity, the plant was historically over-harvested from its native habitats in Guatemala, Mexico, El Salvador, and Honduras. To protect wild populations, it was listed under Appendix 2 of CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. This designation regulates its international trade, requiring growers and exporters to adhere to strict legal standards. Today, many nurseries are CITES registered, ensuring that every plant is propagated responsibly and legally in-house, rather than collected from the wild. When a consumer purchases a CITES certified T. xerographica, they are directly supporting these sustainable practices and helping to reduce the pressure on wild ecosystems. 4.3. My story, a thriving collection. The single Tillandsia ionantha that started my journey has since become the centerpiece of a vibrant, thriving collection. The mother plant, having given its final gift of a pup, now resides on a piece of driftwood. Its aged leaves are testament to its long life and successful bloom. Its pup, now a robust plant in its own right, sits nearby, a living promise of continuity. My home has been transformed by these living works of art. My living room features a hanging air plant chandelier, while a variety of species are mounted on a large piece of cork bark in my office. My journey with these plants has been a quiet lesson in patience and observation. They have shown me that life can thrive in the most unexpected of places and that true beauty is often the result of quiet resilience. Caring for them has become more than just a hobby. It is a tangible connection to the timeless, beautiful cycles of life, death, and renewal. Versus summary, key takeaways, and final thoughts. The cultivation of air plants, while seemingly simple, is a rewarding practice that requires a deep understanding of the unique biology, The journey begins with the selection of a healthy plant and the establishment of a regular, consistent care routine. The foundational principles are straightforward but crucial. A weekly soak for hydration, followed by a meticulous and rapid drying period to prevent fatal rot. The plant's ideal environment must provide bright, indirect light and ample air circulation, as these are the conditions that mimic its natural habitat. The journey of an air plant culminates in a single, spectacular bloom, a beautiful and dramatic climax that precedes the emergence of a new generation of pups. The ability to propagate these offshoots allows the gardener to participate in the natural cycle of life, extending the plant's legacy and fostering a growing collection. The experience teaches a fundamental lesson: the value of a plant is not in its fleeting bloom, but in the enduring resilience of its life cycle and the new life it leaves behind. Growing a Tillandsia is an exercise in mindful care, where attention to detail and a patient hand are rewarded with living, breathing works of art and a deeper connection to the quiet, persistent rhythm of the natural world.